Fundamentally, it's about selling goods and services over the internet.
You can broadly divide them into two areas, business to business and business to customer. So you've got a sort of retail side and, if you like, a wholesale side.
I think we should use something like e-business. I think e-business is better, but the e-business part, the electronic part, has been around for a long, long time. I think the point of it all is that the web is making this happen. It's the web that's made the whole thing go wide, and I think it's really web business.
I've been spending a lot of time on the internet recently, just looking at cyber porn mainly, and I mean, it's great. You know, you type in like randombodypart.com and you normally find something pretty revolting. We're all gonna die. Planes will fall out of the sky and kill all of the passers-by.
I was thinking today, we should maybe categorise the jokes to get all the lawyer jokes and all that. And then I was saying how boring.
Yeah, I know, that's right.
The thing about e-commerce is it's very high tech, and if you apply to the bank for an internet e-commerce licence, this is what they give you. You actually don't need the clacker, but they send it to you because you need to have a clacker to do anything, apparently.
The sort of business that can benefit from e-commerce, in my opinion, are businesses that have a unique product to offer.
The one school of thought says, well, the information-rich products such as books, CDs, wine, things that are already being bought direct, things that can be shipped. The other school of thought says in the future everything will be available via e-commerce and people will use it just simply for the convenience factor.
The real growth in the internet area is the business-to-business model, which not only provides the e-commerce side of things, but it also provides cost savings so they can deal with their suppliers, their dealers, their partners and various other people.
If you look at what people are buying over the internet, they're buying software, they're buying books, CDs, DVDs, videos. The retail industry is the obvious one that everybody thinks about when they think of electronic commerce. They think of selling and buying. That's very obvious. In addition to that, there's the service industry. There is the information industry. These are people who are providing, say, music, movies, other information products, software over the web where you can actually deliver the product using the World Wide Web.
E-commerce differs substantially from traditional business in several areas. It certainly empowers the consumer.
One of the things about e-business is scale. It is possible for one company to trade to the whole world. It is possible for new businesses that only occupy a really small niche to suddenly become viable because they can trade with everybody in that niche in the world.
I treat my e-commerce business in exactly the same way as I do my physical store. And I think that it's very important. And I think that we will find that those businesses that do have a physical store, I'm talking about retailers here, will last, whereas those that have solely a virtual store may not.
You can do things on the web that you can't do in a traditional environment or through any other medium, and to be successful on the web you need to really utilise the magic of the medium.
You're down the corner, a two-man show. You cannot compete against us. But on the internet, we've each got one website. We're the same. It's a level playing field, and for small industry, a good website and a good e-commerce or e-business strategy can give you market dominance for low investment.
Well, e-commerce isn't different to traditional business. What e-commerce is a facilitator of traditional business. We're still going to buy real products and real personal services. All we're doing is buying it in a slightly different way.
It is a direct relationship between the customer and the advertiser or the retailer or whatever the business happens to be. It cuts out all middlemen.
That's crappy. Yeah, it is crappy, I agree. Yeah, that's it.
And I think in a way it's a more personal experience than shopping in a major department store, where you're really dealing with one person at a time who is interfacing to your shop, your monitor. So it's different in that sense. And I think, going back to the idea of bricks and mortar, it collapses geography. It actually erases, physical space.
The unique characteristics of e-commerce are really to do with some interesting things, to do with geographic independence, to do with the fact that no longer does the buyer and the seller have to be in the same room, or even in the same city, or even in the same country. They can be anywhere on the planet. It also means that the shop, in a virtual sense that you're talking to, is open 24 hours a day. So there are no time zone issues. You can buy a book or a video whenever you feel like buying it.
Size. Nobody knows size on the internet. Size and distance is irrelevant.
I don't think that there are really unique characteristics about e-commerce. I think it's just another way of looking at commerce. It's really like how you sell something in the normal world. You might sell it through a shop, or you might sell it via direct marketing. It's really another way of selling over the internet.
Now, on the internet, in an ideal environment, immediately you can click on the producer name and find out about that producer. So you're immediately empowered in a way that you're not in a traditional environment, and you can make a decision that isn't based on, say, label. And I think that has the potential to radically increase markets like the imported wine market.
So I believe it's going to change the face of the world in the same way that the Industrial Revolution did, but faster.
All business can adapt in some way to e-commerce. The question is, to what level do they need to adapt? Certainly, one can sell products online in a relatively simple manner.
The key to it is really understanding what the business is really about, and does that have a national or global audience, and is there a niche that they can identify that they can do better than their competitors, or that their customers have in common.
Ideally, the organisation should determine what advantages they hope to gain from internet commerce. Does it fit with their overall business strategy?
If you don't need a middleman, it will sell very well via the internet. If you can find your core users and target your core users effectively, then you don't need the middleman. You can sell your product direct to the consumer.
The best prospects for e-commerce are your small consumable goods, like your books and your CDs. These are by far and away the big winners so far in e-commerce.
The big opportunities, I think, are widespread. I think there are many businesses that can make use of the web and that can reduce their costs by using it to do all sorts of things. Speed up the way they do transactions, deal with more suppliers, deal with more customers. So I think the businesses that can benefit, just about every business. But specifically, I think there's going to be new forms of intermediaries. Right? We've seen real estate agents be challenged. We've seen stockbrokers be challenged. We've seen retailers being challenged. And I think people will come up with new formulas for doing those intermediate activities, or playing the role of intermediaries. And that's where there'll be lots of potential for new business.
The areas we have seen are just the tip of the iceberg. I think the area where we will see the most growth in the next few years are the service industries.
You typically wouldn't walk up to someone in a retail store and say, hey fella, what do you think of this wine? But in a website environment, that's absolutely typical behaviour. People will want to know what their other surfers are looking at, what they think of particular products. They'll go to bulletin boards and say, has anyone tried this? And they get feedback and they base their decisions on that. So it's quite a different scenario.
With online ordering, when it pops out of your machine, it's clear, it's precise, they've only had to put numbers in. It's like elections. You don't want people to write too much, otherwise you don't understand them.
To buy green groceries by internet or by phone or however, you've still got to physically get the products down the road and delivered into the house, and there might not be anyone at home. You've got all of those sorts of problems.
If I order product online and the product takes 2 weeks to get to me, I'd much rather drive the 20 minutes and get it from a nearby town.
Hi.
Hello, Lee.
Yes.
I have a parcel for you from Murray-Lee.
Fantastic. Just put it down here.
On the internet, nobody knows that Boots Online or the Stitching Horse Bootery is not a global giant. I mean, anybody in North America wouldn't know that we're not as large as Coles Myer. And it gives you an opportunity there that if you can get the confidence of that customer, that there is every reason that they're going to buy from you.
That broadens the way people can do business. Not only can they sell their goods and services in their local market, but they can also sell them around the country and around the globe. That really opens up the opportunities for even small companies.
So e-commerce and particularly the platform of the internet empowers small businesses like ours to take on much larger institutions in a national forum.
At the moment, e-commerce doesn't include proper telepresence. You can't really properly interact with a person in terms of seeing them and talking to them through a website.
If you land on a site and it takes forever to download, they either assume they're not going to be able to get the rest of the site, or they assume there's something wrong with their modem, and they just go.
I think if you just see your customers as a huge potential group of credit cards that are all connected via the internet, I think you're missing the point.
People often make the mistake of looking at the size of the market and overestimating what percentage or what portion of that market they'll capture in the first, say, 12 months to 2 years of their business.
I think you need a 3 to 5 year strategy with moving your business online, and you need to set yourself achievable goals in that time.
People will say, I'm going to do business on the internet, so they get a web designer and design a website which becomes a catalogue essentially, and they think that that's e-commerce. It's just simply not enough. It must be much more exciting, it must be interactive, and it must have appropriate payment systems, appropriate back-end delivery systems and customer management systems. It's much more than just building a website and putting a catalogue up on the internet.
There's a website called chaosmusic.com, and they sell a lot of the CDs on their website, but we actually haven't managed to crack a sale on our own. We're really in argument on how not to do it.
think it depends on the scale of your business first. I mean, if you're just selling one product, like you're just making picture frames, for instance, then you really don't need to go too far into e-commerce. You could probably just set up a website with an email address and just let people email you and say, yes, I like that frame, can you send me one? And you haven't really spent a lot of money there. Both of those technologies tend to be very cheap.
We spend a lot of time working out their business strategy. What are they trying to achieve? What's their product? Who's the likely target market? Is it going to be within Australian boundaries? Is it an international market? And you need to plan the site, the structure and navigation of it, to meet that criteria. Once you get all that in place, then you can think about what technologies you're going to use to make the site do what you want it to do.
If you're a small business with a range of products or a range of services, I think probably the first thing to do is talk to your ISP and see what services they offer.
I think you use your own intuition. I don't really think there's any advice because every industry is so different. If I was selling CDs, it'd be so different to our technology. It'd be so different from the software to the hardware to the delivery to. It'd be a breeze doing CDs. Love that one.
Well, to set up an e-business, you really need to start with a bit of imagination, I think. You need to think about how you contact with your suppliers, your customers. You need to think about new ways of doing that sort of interaction with the various parties that you do business with. You need to think about whether you've got some particular expertise that can be multiplied in some way on the web. You need to think about the relative cost of doing that as opposed to the business you might create for yourself.
An ISP, otherwise known as an Internet Service Provider, is an organisation that has a number of roles. An ISP such as ourselves, Internode, actually provide at one level access for consumers to the Internet. We take your computer connection to us and we in turn connect you to the rest of the planet across the Internet. This is an example of a server that's run by an independent organisation that rents space from us and stores websites on it. Oz Coffee, for instance, is sitting on this, and they then use this server and go out through the infrastructure we've seen to get to the Internet. For businesses, ISPs provide other services. They provide what are called permanent links, which means a connection from a business premises to us as an internet service provider on a 24/7 basis, so that that organisation's entire network has access to the Internet. Beyond that again, we provide business value-added services for electronic commerce that allow a company to actually build an e-commerce presence on the Internet.
Think about the global market that you're about to embark upon and the sort of issues that are going to arise when you start selling outside of Australia perhaps. And then start thinking about how you build your website and how you build the support infrastructure around that website.
I hear in e-commerce a lot of people developing business plans that somehow say that you're going to get everybody in the world to buy your product. I mean, the reality is that that's not a good business plan. You have to really know who the customers will be. And so what we did is start with the customers. Who would buy this? Who can we sell this to? And are they prepared to pay for it?
We're developing a business plan, which we think will have probably finalised in about 6 months, after the shop goes up, probably.
You want to do your research, you want to look at everybody else who might be in a similar area and try and figure out, or even get figures, if you can, from company reports, etc., about that business. Next, then you've got to do your own market research and work out if it's if you think that by asking people is always a good one, if something's going to work. Putting that into the business plan, then you have obviously you've got your income and expenditure, what your outlays are going to be before you start, and when you expect to start getting revenues in the door.
The cost of websites is a very vexing issue. On one hand, we have the Gartner report on website costs from the US saying that if you want to build an e-commerce site, then you should be thinking $1 million. On the other hand, you have someone who says that my nephew down the street can build that website for $500. Okay, so what you're really looking at is a number of factors. Do you want to pay for design? Do you want to employ a graphic artist to give you a professional design in the website? What sort of software engineering will be required to make your e-commerce solution work? Will it be necessary to integrate your website with your inventory database? Right? Will it be necessary to integrate the website with some sort of workflow in your organisation? All these questions really mean that the cost of a website is like a piece of string.
I think it cost me about $2,500.
To set up our website, it was a cost of around $5,000.
All up will come under the $50,000 mark.
All in all, to start up, it cost us about $250,000. And I suppose if you want to add on the administration costs and so on, it was probably another up to $350,000, $400,000.
Equity Cafe has cost over $1 million to date. We value the digital media group at over $18 million now, and we're looking to grow that with another round of capital raising to over $100 million in the next 3 or 4 years.
We don't advertise as such with the website. We only include it on everything that we do, all our letterhead, menus, everything has our website on it.
After the first couple of months of advertising on the web and using links to other sites, then we'll also be advertising in industry magazines and newspapers.
There was a bus going along the road in Adelaide with Monster.com all over it, plastered all over it. And I didn't know anything much about Monster 3 or 4 months ago. And here I was, I'd joined a worldwide conglomerate that took the time to advertise on the buses in Adelaide.
We've got a lot of publicity as editorial content without having to really spend a lot of money on advertising.
I do as much PR work as I can and regularly send out press releases trying to get some sort of coverage. And I've placed 4 ads in the New Yorker between now and the beginning of December, and we're getting orders from it.
Well, banner ads are one of those great mysteries on the web. No one's sure how effective they are, which is, somewhat true of all advertising.
We have decided that we will, in the first instance, advertise offline, not online. And that has involved producing an animated television commercial, which we now have.
I've thought of sponsoring a yacht, a spinnaker on a yacht in Sydney Harbour for the Sydney Harbour Yacht Race, because it's all over Australia. Everybody watches the Sydney Harbour Yacht Race, and a friend of mine sails out of Sydney Harbour, and I thought, well, we could have www.netvet.com across his big spinnaker as he goes down Sydney Harbour. Those are the sort of things you have to look at.
I think you have to cross-market a website. If you produce a website and put it up on the server, it's just going to sit there. So the cross-marketing aspect of it, whether it's television or print media, but again, search engines are really important. So getting the right words in there and making sure all the search engines know your site exists will actually drive traffic to your site. So it actually becomes a useful tool.
Hi, I'm Liam. This is Chris. Hi. Do you ever get a feeling of deja vu? Where you've lived through a moment at another time before in your life? Hi. Do you ever get a feeling of mum-ja vu? When your mum tells you the same thing about 50,000 times?
And we're getting hundreds of people a day going to the site. I mean, we have around about 120 or 150 people a day go there. Now, there will obviously be some repeat visits, and if you took me out, there'd probably be 20 or 30 a day. But I mean, that's an audience of
couple of 100,000, 36,000 people a year that are exposed to what we do, and that's an audience that we wouldn't reach in any other way.
That's right, and one day we'll be very big in Finland.
We're enormous in
yeah,
Finland. We get about
insane.
about 10% of our hits come from Finland.
I think they don't understand actually what we're writing about, and I think we're being serious.
So it really is about creating a space beyond just selling goods online. So we've talked about things like having a karaoke machine so people can set their own theme of music while they're browsing through the site. You may approach one of the directories and give them a release. They'll feature the site, and that has proven that will generate traffic to your site. Doesn't necessarily generate sales, but certainly you've got to get people there in the first place, and that's where it's important to have a site that will engage people once they get there.
Firstly, the best way to promote your business online is through making sure that you're listed in search engines, because most people, when they're looking for things on the web, will go to a search engine to try and find. So it's important, and that can be done easily through going to any main search engine's website and just submit a site. Button appears on most of them, and you submit a site, and then you get listed by that search engine.
You really need to have a look at the different search engines archive in different ways, but basically at the top of a web document, a HTML document, there is some meta information, which is descriptive information about that document, and most web search engines will archive on the information in that section of the document as well as the content, but primarily in there where you describe what the document is, the title of the document, some keywords about the document, that kind of information.
When a movie like Crocodile Dundee would come out, and people would associate that with boots in Australia, you would be certain to then go and include Crocodile Dundee in your list of keywords. When you're opening a retail store, every real estate agent will tell you that there's really only three important things, and that's position, position, position. Nothing has changed on the internet, except that position, position, position now relates to your position in the search engines. And on a straight search on boots on the Alta Vista search engine, we came up number 1 out of over 800,000 hits. So that was pleasing.
People would do well to start small and just say, okay, we've got this range of products, perhaps we'll just put it on the web and we'll just have email, just have people asking us questions. And so, only spend $1,000 on your e-commerce business. And if that proves successful, you'll find out which aspects of it are successful and build on those. I think any company that spends huge amounts of money up front for e-commerce is asking for trouble in this climate where so few of them are profitable.
The most important thing is really to have thought through what you want to be doing with your website and what are realistic, what the realistic potential is from that site.
One of the big problems with the internet is that everyone has to learn their own mistakes. Everyone has to really go through the development path themselves, and I think the two things to realise are, if you're going to do it properly, A, it's going to be very difficult, and B, it's going to be very expensive.
So my best piece of advice is do your research online. Get online and see who's making or selling exactly the same kind of product you are.
We have three principles that we start with, and that is psychology, strategy, and navigation. The psychology of the user, the mindset of the person that you're trying to target, the strategy in which you will target them, that is the content of the website and the design of the website, and the navigation of the website, that is how do they get from A to B to C and back to A again on the website.
Good design, to me, on a website is simplicity. I think it really just has to be simple for people to find what they're looking for quickly.
Good design is something for the web that is mirrored in the real world. So everything should match as closely as possible. Colour scheming, logos, layout. It should be a fairly seamless transition. So good design matches your real world presence with your online presence.
We want to make sure that our users can really use it easily, and the functionality is really simple. What I mean by that is they go to the site and they're not confused by the interface. It's clear that buttons will take them to particular places in the site, and the navigation is predictable and easy to use and uncomplicated.
Speed and usability, and one of the great sayings is the top's got to pop. The first thing you really have to think about is the front page, the top of the website really has to be very strong and very clear and has to identify what you're going to find within that site as soon as you land on the top of the site.
And this bloke's review of our website was he didn't like the lens flare.
He didn't like the lens flare, so he gave us 2 out of 5.
And now he refuses to re-rate it. I mean, we lost the lens flare straight away, and he refuses to re-rate the site after 4 years. He just does, no, we got 2 and that's what we'll get forever.
Yeah.
An e-commerce site is a shop window to the world. I mean, here we are with a single store operation in Bridge Road, Richmond. And we've sold to probably 40 countries, and every day somebody, at any time, 24 hours a day, anybody that wants to look in my shop window can go to our website and see what we sell.
It's like your retail store, your information, point. It's really the customer's orientation to what they're going to see when they type in your address and go to your space.
Navigation's important to a website because it enables the user to be able to control the direction in which they head through the document. It's also important because it enables them to also move back through a document.
We had a sitemap designed and then didn't include it because we'd kept the site so simple that we didn't need a map, and we thought that was pretty good too.
But the important thing about a site's flow, as far as information is concerned, is that you don't get stuck down one corridor and are unable to come back.
And one of the things that is very, very clearly coming out in the US, that a consumer will only give you about 8 to 10 seconds for you to capture their imagination on why you want them inside your website. So it's absolutely critical that your homepage, as they call it, the very first page you come to, is very clean and as fast as you can get it.
Minimise the information. Give the customer the only information they need. Don't make them make choices between 2 products that are very similar. Make the choice for them.
We have full-size pictures of boots. When somebody's thinking of buying a boot, they don't mind waiting a while to see the picture of the item that they're ready to spend $265 on. But if that was the first picture that came up, then I think we'd just frighten those people off and they wouldn't stay around to find out what the product was in the first place.
One Planets was very effective. It's a nicely laid out site.
It's a good looking site, very informative, heaps of information and news on there, and it's got products there that are available and easy to order.
Gorski's is perhaps a little tacky in its content, as well as the use of different images with different colour schemes that clash with each other and don't provide a consistency in their style.
The worst sites are the ones that actually send you a little MIDI sound file and play in the background, and you can't work out where it's coming from for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's difficult, but I do think you have to think about what you're doing. There are some terrible websites around. I don't know if you've had a look at a wonderful site called Web Pages That Suck, which literally is www.webpagethatsuck.com, and it tells you what you shouldn't do on a web page.
I think the garden.com is probably one of the best business-to-consumer sites on the net at the moment. They've built like a really sticky site. They've built a really sound community around their site about delivering information, advice. You can go onto the site and design a garden, and then it'll basically build the inventory of your order.
Much of the populace tend to view the web as sort of this last refuge of thieves and scoundrels. Whenever you're dealing with something like loans, you want to present yourself as a credible source, and I think they pulled that off.
We have www.byte.com, which provides a lovely interface, very simply designed, takes advantage of white space, and is not cluttered.
Oz Coffee is interesting because it's a site that doesn't seem to be pretending to be what it's not. It's not large, but it's fun. They've gone to some effort to make sure that the site looks interesting to navigate around, use interesting graphics that caught my attention. They're actually targeting a very good mix, which is hackers that want to drink coffee.
An important consideration in World Wide Web page design is design integrity, where consistency and predictability are an important part of the design process. This enables users to feel comfortable and at ease with that particular site.
The customer experience, in an internet site, navigation is crucial. If a person can't, find out where they are, what's available and where they can go to within a site, they're basically lost. And it's only, your competitor's only one click away.
Successful e-commerce has a lot to do with customer interaction with the site. I think it's got a lot to do with how comfortable users feel on the site, and it's that idea of not being invasive but providing information for free.
Internet consumers are compulsive. They have this stupid thing in their hand called the mouse with a little button on it and their fingers poised over it. And if they see anything in there they're not comfortable with, you're gone.
Be prepared to respond to all the customers who do give you feedback. Automate that if necessary. It's very easy to automate customer feedback.
I get lots of email responses from customers after they've received their orders, and here's one, got them their beauties.
It's important always on any website to make sure that your contact details are clearly shown somewhere on the site, and that it's important that it's not just a phone number and a physical address, but actually an email address as well.
You've really got to go and sit down, get your mum, sit her down with a computer and say, this is what I do, what is this?
The only way I tell if my website's working is if I'm getting orders.
I think you're going to know if your e-commerce business is successful because people keep coming back. They're going to keep ordering online.
A website works when you go back and you get something out of it when you're there.
We're happy with the site. We're getting 6,000 to 8,000 unique visits a month. From that we're drawing 200 to 300 applications.
you really want to get some outside people who have no understanding of what your product is and sit them down in front of your website and just let them go through it. And if they don't know about your product, then they'll be able to quickly tell you, no, I don't understand your website. This hasn't been explained enough. Whereas if I've written the website and I know about it, I'm going to have made a lot of presumptions that these people can inform me about.
One way to measure the success of a website is the much spoken about hit rate, and that tends to overestimate the amount of activity that's going on your website. A better measure is the number of unique visitors. On the other hand, your objective might be to actually do business over the web, and the measure there would be how much you actually sell. Back to that narrow idea of e-commerce.
And the feedback that I continually get from my customers is that they like the site because they can find what they want on it quickly.
I think crappy.com is essentially about fun, about silliness, about taking mundane, otherwise unnoticed products and turning them into fun.
They want their experience when they go into a store to be dynamic, so there has to be an element that the same goods can't be there every time you visit an online store or whether you visit a real store.
Its eyes light up and it makes a kind of horse sound, which is beautiful, I think. And if you really want to be practical, you can light your cigarette.
If you land on a site and it takes forever to download, they either assume they're not going to be able to get the rest of the site, or they assume there's something wrong with their modem, and they just go. And if you've got competitors, if you're selling a product like coffee from Oz Coffee, if you've got competitors, they will go to the competitor's site. Speed is absolutely crucial when you're in the context of having competitors, and there isn't a product on the web today that wouldn't have competitors. Everything you can possibly imagine is being sold via the web.
We get a little frustrated when we see some very, very clever technical people build websites that are technically brilliant, but they've got so much graphic and so much glitz and glamour in them, they just take forever to download.
We were very aware of the fact that we didn't want all the bells and whistles, so what we wanted was something that works smoothly. It's really important to have something that's quick.
Everyone thinks that they're a designer. Everyone's a web designer. Everyone can, I can design your newsletter.
Design your own.
Yeah, design your own.
And I think the primary motivation is to understand why people are visiting your website and build the navigation model to suit that purpose.
The most common problem with interfaces is that they're not professionally designed and they just end up being plain ugly. People, other things remaining constant, prefer something that's attractive. They prefer the thing they're working with to be aesthetically pleasing.
There's amateurs that will tinkle around, but if you don't get a professional in, you're really selling yourself short.
So attractive, clean, simple and easy to navigate are the main things that, well, go wrong but can be gotten right and make a website work.
The idea that you don't want to be involved with the medium won't work. You have to become a nethead. You have to become far more involved with the actual medium itself if you want your website to succeed.
It's all about looking at integrating all the different services, the planning, the web design, the technical side with the software that you're integrating with your website, the security, the payment processing system that you have.
In e-commerce, people tend to assume that you should be able to turn a profit much quicker than that. And of course, it's not the case. The setup costs are huge. Really what everyone is after is market share and to establish themselves at the top of the heap so that as the market grows, they're able to absorb as much of that market share as possible, and that costs money. It's really a land grab, if you like, at the moment, and profitability will come on the back of that.
I think you can't expect the internet to make you money, necessarily. You need to have a good plan to make money on the internet.
Fish are the only creatures on earth that always have a water birth. I like fish.
How do you make money on the net?
That's just a ridiculous question.
I like fish. Everybody make a noise like a fish.
If there's anywhere in the world that you're going to get rich quick these days, it's on the net. There's no doubt about that.
Well, a friend told me about RSVP on the computer, and I just thought, oh, well, for a laugh, I'll go in there. And so my friend thought up this weird name for me called Foxy Vixen and put me on there and made me fill out my details and that. So I just thought, oh, yeah, have a go. So I did. And I'd only been on there for a little while, and I saw this Adelaide dude there, and I thought, oh, cool. So I sent him a message and said, oh, I'm from Adelaide as well. And the message that came back was, I'm too old for you. And I said, well, you know, it doesn't stop us talking to each other, you know.
When they actually order over the internet site, it actually tells them how much the delivery is going to cost, inclusive of the delivery fee or not. They can pay this by cash on delivery, or they can give us their credit card number, we can invoice them and then send them a credit card slip.
It makes sense for us to deal with credit facilities offline. But if I was to put their cards on the net, there's no question we would have less customers.
A lot of people are understandably concerned about providing credit card numbers over the internet, and one of the options that we offer there is a little box to tick if you want me to call you anywhere in the world to obtain your credit card details. And we find that I would say probably 30% of our customers request that.
Virtual money and e-cash are really like a debit card system. They allow customers to prepay, to fill up their e-cash account, if you like, with money, and then they can go and spend that money with merchants who are e-cash participants.
To set up a secure site, you need to have certain technology in place. We use a US company called VeriSign, who provides us with secure socket layer technology, and that enables our customers to feel comfortable about putting confidential information on the web.
All I know about our payment system is that it's 128-bit secure, which is pretty secure. I think you'd have more chance getting into Fort Knox than you would getting into our payment system.
Everybody is scared about using internet credit cards. Now, to me,
It's much safer to do it over the net than it would be to give your credit card to somebody in a restaurant, or to even leave a slip around somewhere if they're still using the old zip systems. We don't get to see all of the numbers on the credit card either. We get to see the first few, the last few, the crucial bit in the middle. We don't get to see. The client knows them, the bank knows it, and that's the only people that know.
So what we've looked at for our solution is that the credit card transactions won't actually occur on our server. They will occur at a secure server, and that way there is no possibility of a breach occurring at our end. So we will go through what's called a gateway, and that may be run by one of the banks or one of the institutions in Australia. So it's very, very safe.
I actually wanted to have a shopping trolley because we don't have shopping carts in Australia, but that was just me. But the design of that program is there. It's easy to use. You can list a number of different products and variations on each individual product, and it's easy to go in, change the prices, change sizes if you need to. It's just like having a real store there, but all at your fingertips. That's it, eh? It's a tough life.
Byte.com.au is an example of such a site, a very simple transactional site using shopping cart technology. So essentially that links the browsing of the catalogue or the choice of products which are available for sale to an actual tally list, and then takes the user to a payment option screen.
The simple merchant software is the shopping cart software. It means that we can change it, update it, change our prices, change our menu, which tends to change quite often. So as we introduce a new product, we can change our website as we need to.
In terms of the Oz Coffee website as an online shop, the ordering system works in this way. People can scroll down through the different blends of coffee. They can find descriptions of those blends, both light-hearted descriptions related to net terminology, or serious descriptions about what the coffee really is. They can order on that ordering page various weights and sizes of packs of coffee, various grinds and various quantities. And then down the very bottom, it asks for their credit card details in a secure encrypted form, and then they proceed to the checkout. They click on a button that says take your shopping cart to the checkout, and there the system actually calculates the postage rate once they've selected parcel post or express post, and tells them what the overall charge will be, and they click on a button that says place order now.
Hi Tanya.
Hi Tanya.
6 kilos of Australian coffee. Keep it going.
Thank you. An invoice. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
See you next week.
See you.
See you.
Yeah, we order our coffee online. It's the most effective and efficient way. It cuts out the middleman, and we get it straight from the wholesalers, and it takes 1 minute to do.
We changed ISPs a little while ago and found that they gave us a free shop of an online store as part of our deal, our $35 a month deal. So we thought, well, it's free, let's set up a store. And we didn't actually have anything to sell.
No. Just jokes.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried selling a joke?
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
The hardest part of selling a joke online is once the person has actually read the joke, they're not going to pay you.
It's very hard to get samples of jokes.
Yeah. So what we decided to do is we should offer product for sale, something that would allow people to buy things. And so we invented the idea of T-shirts. Until we invented T-shirts, everyone just wore short sleeve shirts and stuff.
That's funny.
But these are shirts that are they've got just a round neck, no collar. Bit like that, but not a jumper.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Chris is wearing a T-shirt. Anyway, and we printed a little thing on the thing. At the time, we were doing a. That's what we
That's
printed.
exactly what we printed
t-shirt.
on that.
That's the Wood Spazgates T-shirt. We were doing a show called How to Rob Banks, and they are the 3 successful things that people do every day if you're successful.
That's right.
Wood Spazgates, wake up,
Do something positive and successful.
Go to sleep.
Go to sleep.
The first thing is to get your orders out, get them accurate, and get them off to the people as quickly as possible. The second thing is developing technologies that will make that process more efficient.
We generally deliver our sandwiches by foot if it's in close proximity. We actually have a motorised push bike as well, which is a bit of fun.
Good afternoon. Delivery for Barry Dean.
I have a really glorious back shed that has quite a lot of room in it. So I'll be using the home essentially as the first warehouse of crappy products. It'll be a manual process. There won't be any sort of robotics in a giant warehouse picking out the crappy, horse of, shelf X, and bringing it to a cardboard box packing machine, then putting it in an envelope. We'll be doing it manually in our backyard.
It's an ongoing science. We every day are learning. We're learning, I'll give you an example, a good analogy, eggs. If you chop up eggs and somebody only wants half a dozen, of course it's not as strong on one end. And you learn. And there's nothing like eggs to teach you a lesson. There's nothing like broken eggs to teach you that there's another way of doing it.
We have arrangements set up with an international courier. We can deliver anywhere in the world in between 3 and 5 days. That's door to door.
Fulfilment, to me, is delivery of goods. So if a customer comes into your space, orders something, it's not only that they're getting their product sent to them, but they're getting constant, notification. Your transaction has been approved. The product is shipping. They can track their product where it is. They get follow-up about other products which relate to the product they've just purchased. So it's a complete process. It's not just, click, put the Visa card in and bang, and the user doesn't get anything back.
Okay.
See ya.
I think the delivery problem illustrates how out of balance we've got in the community. What we've now got is an internet system which is rapidly advancing for choosing the products we want, but we haven't got any way of really simply delivering them. The cost of a book when I buy it from Amazon is more in the delivery than it is in the actual book very often. So, that's what kills the advantages that we're gaining out of the internet.
We recently did a study where we ordered products from 50 online retailers in Australia. Only 3 of those retailers delivered the product in the time frame which they promised that would be delivered in. Some of them never delivered the product. Some of them took 2 weeks to deliver a product, and that's just not compelling for the user.
The most important thing is really to have thought through what you want to be doing with your website and what are realistic, what the realistic potential is from that site.
Certainly 80 million users doesn't translate to 80 million customers, so it's important to have a look at the market you have and how that might apply online.
Delivery is the greatest weakness, and everybody forgets that it's got to be delivered. It's not virtual. The goods are not virtual. Everything else might be, but not the goods, and they've got to be delivered.
The internet fundamentally is not secure, and that's where people get the impression that there is a security problem. But the technology exists to make it secure, and provided people use that technology intelligently, then they have nothing to fear.
The internet is not secure, and that's because of its origins or its design objectives. It was meant to be this integrating web of connections linking through multiple ports, that if any particular region was hit with a nuclear weapon and disrupted, there are 10 other alternatives.
So it's not secure, but there are mechanisms which are applied to it, which are supplied either by the legal fraternity or the commercial community to make it more secure, to make it acceptably secure.
I think the biggest obstacle or the biggest problem that we face with our internet site is the number of bogus orders that we do receive. Probably 15 to 20% of the orders that we get are with stolen credit cards.
There's certainly a perception that e-commerce is not safe, and for a lot of consumers there is a resistance to buying goods online. Certainly my experience has been that e-commerce is safe, and I would suggest that there is more possibility of someone gaining access to your credit card number by transacting at a store at your local shopping centre than what there is with dealing with someone online.
This is our CD. You can buy this from us after the show for $10. We also take any of these major credit cards, so MasterCard, bank card, Visa. People are also really scared about, say, having their credit card ripped off. The truth is it's the merchant who bears that risk, and it doesn't really bother me if someone steals my credit card number and uses it, because I just say, well, they're not my transactions and I won't wear the loss.
The complete responsibility there is on the merchant. If I ship goods to somebody using a stolen credit card, I am in no way protected, whereas the owner of the card is protected. So I lose my goods.
It's just the fact that it is worldwide and that people we don't know may be sitting in their study somewhere on the other side of the world, trawling the internet for packets of information that contain things such as credit card details.
I probably don't feel too confident to hand out my credit card details just to anybody over the internet. That's probably why I haven't been so forward about buying CDs and books and clothes.
Well, we make credit card transactions secure by doing two things. One, by applying what we call cryptography, which is scrambling of the information so that only a person who has the right keys can unscramble it. And the second way is by a process called authentication, which is really validating who the buyer and the seller are.
It's just a risk-reward game, and it's a matter of deciding that the rewards are worth the risks. The risks aren't zero, but the rewards are huge, especially if your business is one that could use having the world as its shopfront.
What are digital certificates?
I don't know.
No, neither do I. What are they? Yes, I know. They're like a little bit thing that proves you.
Are they?
Yeah.
Digital certificates are a method of providing authentication, and digital certificates are rather like PIN numbers on your credit card or your EFTPOS card, except they're very long PIN numbers. They're typically 128 characters long instead of 4 or 6 characters long, so they're very, very hard to break down.
I get this program and I say, I want to create myself a public and private key. So I use the program and I create 2 keys. The private key is mine. I keep that, protect it, look after it. And when I want to use my private key, I have to enter in a password. So that's half of it. But how do you send to me a file that I can open? Well, I send to you my public key. I don't care who gets my public key. The public key has only one function, and that is to encrypt a file. And I'll give that to anyone and everyone. So I give you my public key and you encrypt a file. You can't open it anymore. Only I can. Only I can open it with my private key and my password. And that is a form by which we can establish secure communications over the internet.
The legal responsibilities that we answer to in our business is the Uniform Consumer Credit Code, and that is one of conveying accurate information about your product and dealing with your customer in a commercial manner. The platform of the internet is in fact fantastic for that, because we control completely the information that's being put forward with our product. We're not reliant on a commission-based agent. In terms of the legal positioning, we're actually very comfortable with the internet in our business.
When you actually examine the material reality of someone placing a wine order on the internet, it's no different to them placing a wine order over the phone.
An online shop isn't unlike a normal shop. It only sounds different and new, but really we'll be operating within the same legal framework as a bricks and mortar shop.
Just this week I've had a nasty email from a previously very happy customer in Germany that ordered $800 worth of merchandise and had to pay a heavy swag of import duty on that. And previously he was never charged for that.
Copyright's a passion of mine. Copyright is the exclusive bundle of rights which is awarded to the author or a creator of work to entitle them to market it, to get economic reward for their creative endeavour, and to entitle them to say when, how and on what conditions their work may be used.
What it does is provide a human right. It says that we should acknowledge that somebody has actually created this musical work, this sculpture, this painting, and then it also provides a method of remuneration. So if somebody wants to do something with that sculpture, if they want to broadcast that musical work, then the creator needs to receive some kind of remuneration.
Once I put my book on the internet, anybody can access it at the push of a button or a click of a mouse. Anybody can download it, copy it, and transmit it without my knowledge, without my consent, 100 times over to every country in the world without me knowing. There is a misconception about work which is submitted to the internet, and it's that if you've given it to the internet, it's gone to a public domain, therefore anyone can use it as they will, when they will. And that is a very seriously ill-founded misconception. The fact that you submit work to the internet does not affect your legal rights in relation to that work. I had someone who submitted some photographic work to the internet here to its homepage, and the photograph was taken out from that site, downloaded to an American competitor's site and used as their own material. And naturally my client was outraged, and so was I. I thought it was a moral outrage. How dare you present work as your own when it isn't?
When you do it on the internet, you copy it onto a server and that's it, the entire world can have access to it. So you've got to be careful about the way that you use the internet, because you can lose control of your works, your creativity.
What are common breaches of copyright on the internet?
Stealing pictures and text and media from other people's sites.
And we're listed on a lot of dog search engines and dog
We are one of the
pages.
most popular dog sites in the world.
It's very strange.
Top 100 dog sites we are. And all we do is we actually steal photos of people's dogs from elsewhere on the internet and whack them on our site.
Yeah.
So it's very cheap to run.
Yes.
Yeah, it's theft.
Yeah.
It's outrageous to take someone else's work and
right.
just appropriate it to yourself without due acknowledgement. And I would spit on anyone who did it in any way, shape or form.
There's many different things I think you can do with music on the net. You can webcast, you can have concerts, you can, as we were just talking about, you can sell. You may even just want to use music behind a web page so when somebody opens it, some music plays. What you got to remember is that music that you're using is owned by somebody else. Just because you have the CD doesn't mean that you can do what you want with it. If you've got a CD and you want to put a song file, a clip of a song up on the web, you need to talk to us because we represent the songwriter who owns the musical work, the lyrics. But you also would need to go to the record company because they own the copyright in the sound recording, i.e. the embodiment, that CD. So there's two separate rights there you need to clear.
Any business that's serious about a long-term future on the internet needs to take privacy very seriously and to treat its customers and members with respect.
There is a tendency for people to find that their details have been passed on to another website and they start getting junk mail. My advice there is to choose your websites where you do transactions carefully and to turn off cookies if you're in your web browser if you really don't want to have that sort of thing happen.
Privacy can be protected absolutely by avoiding the internet. Privacy can also only be absolutely protected by avoiding credit cards, by avoiding driver's licences, by avoiding every other mechanism and regime we have.
Crappy will have a clearly articulated written policy online, and it won't be hugely complicated, that will outline the fact that we will protect our customers' information and we'll only use it for our purposes to hopefully benefit them, and we will not pass any information on to anyone else.
Every member is given an alias, okay? So you choose that your name is Melbourne Girl or Sydney Guy or Darwin Dude. It means that first you're not giving away your real name. Then what we do is when you register, you put in your real email address. You have to give your real email address, but when you send to other people, that's disguised, masked, if you like. So you'll be darwindude@rsvp.com.au.
People should be very careful to read the terms and conditions upon which they go about creating their web content and the terms and conditions upon which their website is hosted. So if you are getting someone to create a website for you, you have to make sure that you will actually own the intellectual property in that site when it's finished.
For people that are setting up an online store, you have to make sure that you appear to the outside world to be reputable. If you can have the most wonderful business in the world, but if you look like a shonky dealer, all people see when they visit your store online is the representation they get of looking at the computer screen.
It will literally revolutionise the world as we know it. It is going to change the way we do just about everything.
E-commerce in the future seems to be heading in one direction, which is up.
Currently we have it in the form of a computer on a desk connected to other computers. There's no reason why that computer couldn't be a Palm Pilot, a mobile phone, a calculator. All of these have facilities for connection into this big network.
All these appliances that we typically think of as being separate from the internet, personal organisers, mobile phones, TVs, fridges is the one that Telstra always use at their conferences. They'll all be internet savvy and they'll all require some degree of content and they'll all require degrees of functionality in terms of interactivity, and e-commerce is the most obvious one.
Business that isn't represented on the internet is unlikely to stay in business.
Well, I have a dream because I think that every person needs a wife, not just a man, and I think e-commerce can fulfil that for everybody. I think it's a great time saver, a great enabler, and I know my personal experience is that I organise most of my life through e-commerce sites.
I think the real threat here is to educational institutions, that if they don't become relevant to people in the way in which people want to develop their careers, then that people, the internet is going to provide a lot more options for somebody, say, based in Adelaide or Melbourne or Sydney, to study anywhere in the world over the internet. With the internet, learners can become consumers of education rather than have to live with what's being supplied by the institution.
Within 3 to 5 years, you're not going to need to download anything to get a really interactive, dynamic experience. And certainly VR, virtual reality down the track, where you can wander through a shop, point to the items you want, drop them into your shopping basket automatically with some sort of data glove and helmet set. I don't think that's too far off. And certainly voice interaction, being able to speak to the website, tell it what you're looking for, tell it what you're after, that's coming very soon.
And my guess is that until computing power gets a little better, we're unlikely to see widespread adoption of virtual reality in this kind of trading environment.
You'll actually be able to, take a piece of clothing, a running shoe, turn it around in all directions, tie up the shoelaces, and get a feel in an online world what the product looks like, feels like from all different angles.
Putting on a boot is a matter of how it feels, and that's a comfort factor, and I don't think they've yet come up with a system for virtual comfort.
I guess the internet presents a new economy, and a part of that is the possibility of a new currency.
So I think artificial intelligence has enormous potential for making the web more user-friendly. This is where the page starts learning what you like, where you like to go, the things that interest you. If you're reading a news service, for example, it will notice that I always like to read articles about medical breakthroughs. So after a while, it will start presenting at the top of my list articles on medical breakthroughs because it learns. And bit by bit, this kind of personal agent really helps you because you don't waste time looking for things, seeing things that you don't want to see. You can go straight to the things that you want to do.
That's how I'm running my business, saying, well, business is good, but I reckon I could make a bit of money because the type of people that use my ISP are young professionals. I'm going to sell this list to another company for the sales ad and marketing component. And all of a sudden, you're flooded with junk mail.
There's a problem coming up for things like gambling. I mean, how do you know that when you bet on some blackjack on some remote casino that you're getting a fair deal. You have no idea whatsoever. I mean, it's a tax on stupidity, that sort of gambling. There are certain areas like that that are going to need international controls, and we haven't got that in place.
There are dangers for everything, but the danger of an internet-worked world is information poverty. The big danger is that those who don't have the education or the access are going to be left behind. Just as in our world, those who don't have money are the ones who are the underclass, as it were. Those without information will be the underclass in the future. You think about when you shop. You go into a store and you buy from an Australian store and you spend that money locally. But if you buy something from the internet, as often as not, you're going to a US site. And that's what most people do. So there is a real danger that as more and more of us get onto the web, that Australians will simply start buying overseas.
I think in the end, new vendors will appear, they'll master the technologies, and we're going to have a more competitive and dynamic environment because of the web. And I don't think any one organisation or group of organisations is going to control it.
My view is that 80% of online transactions will be controlled by 5 to 8 main players in Australia, which means that the remaining 20% is probably there for small businesses. We're just about to see the big e-commerce war in Australia, and I don't think we're there yet. Give it another 12 months, and I think we'll have some very strong e-commerce brands in Australia.
I don't think anyone will control e-commerce as such, because e-commerce exists because the internet is there and the internet is free. The internet developed in a non-profit environment with a lot of government sponsorship, and that tradition extended right around the world, and that's what's given internet the platform which is now being used for commerce.
Nobody's going to control it. I know that big companies would love to control it, but the really nice thing about e-commerce is that alongside a huge successful company, there can be a tiny company doing just as well.
There will probably have to be some level of control, but underneath all that, and this is where the conflict is this great, huge, world-connected community which has an interest in it being free and open and organic and creative and not controlled in any way, that will obviously conflict with any government's attempt to clamp down and restrict particular patterns of behavioural growth.
Yeah, well, you won't find me going out and behaving like a loon on New Year's Eve, that's for sure. It's stupid, everyone's getting so excited, I won't be out there, I'll be at home, alone, with my gun and some tinned food.
What are likely growth areas for e-commerce for the Gorskis?
I think we'll probably have to fundamentally rejig our business,
yes.
and really offer those jokes for sale.
Purple and orange and blue. You can sing a rainbow, sing a rainbow, sing a rainbow too.
Increasingly, you'll find the sites will tend towards the delivery of added value within the system. For instance, if you buy a washing machine, there will be a website which will provide you with service information, instructions, how to use it, how to get the best from it. Similarly, if you buy a hi-fi system, there may well be a dedicated site where you can download special tracks or special mix tracks or added facilities or add-ons.
One of the areas where electronic commerce has most to offer is in the service industry. If you can offer value, if you can provide something that the person can't get for themselves, then they will come to you. So the role of the intermediary is far from dead in a world of electronic commerce. The service industry will turn out to be more important than the product selling industry, because there's just no limit to the range of services that you can offer if you're creative enough to think about them.
Hi.
Hello. Doing some ordering, are you?
Yep. Hi.
Hello, Lee.
Yes.
I have a parcel for you from Murray there.
Fantastic. Just put it down here. I would love the big supermarkets to go online now. Probably 6 months ago I would have been really resisting that sort of change, but since I've been doing this I think it's fantastic. It's very easy having lots of children not to have to get into a car and do your shopping.
I think there's a big market for Australian products, particularly organic products, and I also think software will be a big area.
I think there are many opportunities for small businesses and also for small software development companies to create new sorts of applications. And one thing that's worth thinking about is software companies working with specialised businesses to create software that does something fairly focused, something fairly specialised, but unique and something that can be sold all over the world. I think there's lots of opportunities like that. If we want to look ahead and think about the size of that, we need to think about all the tiny little niches, all the corners and the pockets that are going to be knitted together by the network. And so I think the network frontier is very big compared to the desktop frontier.
Thank you, Wedegorskis. You've been in the audience. Thank you very much. My advice to people trying to set up an e-commerce business would not be to run a comedy e-zine because we don't need the competition.
You can be as successful and as smart and as big as you are capable of making yourself appear on the internet, in a positive sense. There's an old phrase that says, on the internet nobody knows you're a dog. And the point is that you can be who you can look like. So your website can reflect a very smart application of money against a much larger organisation's much sillier application of money. And you can actually succeed in that world. And the beauty is the costs of trying relative to starting a physical shopfront are relatively low.
I definitely think anyone that's looking at setting up an e-commerce business needs to shop around, have a look at the different solutions out there, make sure that you have a strong idea of how you want to represent yourself online, and really be careful about the people that you associate with. Make sure that you're comfortable with the people that you're dealing with and that you can develop a good relationship with them, because you really do need to work together.
Australian small businesses must be part of this global economy because the economy will be global. So it's really a matter of very quickly coming to terms with this new business paradigm, and it's really a revolution in the way we do business, and deploying, working out how they're going to do this business and deploying that business plan as quickly as possible, because the early movers in this business are going to be the successful ones.
The first thing we can do is educate people, so that they understand what's happening and they can take advantage of what's happening, so that nobody will be left behind by the information revolution.
It's still up for grabs and up in the air in regards to what e-commerce will look like in 5 or 6 years, but I think it's going to look different to what everyone thinks it will.
Now is the time to start thinking about it. Now is the time to start doing something. Because before you know it, you will lose market share to your competitor, or you will be in a position that you're really running an outdated business.
In developing your e-commerce solution, there's sure to be other businesses who are doing that and who want to just get together and help, just want to be a community of people who are learning how to do this and what's been effective and what's not. And in fact, there are a range of websites available that are exactly that, just a community of people helping each other. I think that's one of the greatest strengths about the internet, and I think e-commerce people can really take advantage of that community.
It's exciting to have your store open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, selling anywhere in the world. But it's also exciting to be able to satisfy the needs of customers and for that to be a profitable exercise.